There is a moment, often in the quiet hours of the night, when the truth finally lands in the chest of someone who has been loved by a narcissist. It lands like a slow, cold wave. You realize that the person who promised you the world was the same person who slowly dismantled your sense of reality. You realize the confusion was engineered, the self-doubt was cultivated, the exhaustion was intentional, and somewhere beneath the grief, beneath the sleepless nights and the racing thoughts and the unanswered questions, a quiet question begins to rise inside you. How do I make them regret what they did to me? How do I make them feel even a fraction of what I felt? If that question has ever lived inside you, stay with me because what you are about to hear may change the entire trajectory of your healing. Before we go deeper, if you have ever been devalued, discarded, gaslit, silenced, or emotionally erased by someone who claimed to love you, take a moment to subscribe. Not for me, for you. For the version of you that is finally ready to understand what happened, finally ready to stop questioning your own mind, and finally ready to reclaim the life that was quietly taken from you. This space exists for your healing, and every video is designed to help you walk out of the fog with clarity, dignity, and psychological strength. Now, let us begin with a truth that most survivors are never told. The narcissist does not regret losing you the way a healthy person regrets losing someone they love. They do not sit in quiet reflection. They do not replay their cruelty with remorse. They do not feel the ache of missing your laugh or your warmth or your loyalty. What they feel when regret finally arrives is something entirely different. They feel the loss of control. They feel the disappearance of their emotional supply. They feel the unbearable silence of a mirror that no longer reflects them back. And that is the only form of regret their psychology is capable of producing. This is why revenge never works. This is why arguing never works. This is why proving them wrong, exposing them to others, dating someone new to spark jealousy, sending the long message explaining everything they did, or waiting for them to finally understand the damage they caused never brings the closure you crave. Because none of those things touch the one thing a narcissist actually fears. And the one thing they fear is irrelevance. Not anger, not confrontation, not exposure. Irrelevance, the complete, quiet, permanent loss of access to you. To understand why, you have to understand the internal architecture of narcissistic personality patterns. At the core of narcissism lives a fragile, unstable sense of self. A self that cannot regulate its own worth from the inside. A self that must borrow identity, validation, admiration, and emotional intensity from other people in order to feel real. This is why they pursued you so intensely in the beginning. This is why the love bombing felt like destiny. You were not being loved. You were being recruited. You were being selected as a source of emotional fuel, and the more empathetic, loyal, forgiving, and self-sacrificing you were, the more valuable you became to a person who could not generate those qualities within themselves. And once you were bonded to them, the machinery began. The subtle criticisms disguised as jokes, the rewriting of events that made you question your memory, the withdrawal of affection precisely when you needed it most, the unpredictable warmth followed by cold detachment. This is not random cruelty. This is intermittent reinforcement, one of the most powerful behavioral conditioning patterns known to psychology. When affection becomes unpredictable, the human nervous system becomes obsessed with earning it back. You are not weak for staying. You are neurologically bonded through a pattern that has been shown in research on trauma bonding to create attachment stronger than healthy love itself. Then came the gaslighting, the quiet erosion of your perception. You would raise a concern, and somehow by the end of the conversation you were apologizing. You would remember something clearly, and they would look at you with such certainty that you began to doubt your own mind. This was not a misunderstanding. This was a deliberate psychological strategy, whether conscious or unconscious, to keep you dependent on their version of reality. Because a person who cannot trust their own perception cannot leave. A person who cannot trust their own perception cannot set boundaries. A person who cannot trust their own perception becomes the perfect long-term source of supply. And when you finally began to see through it, when you finally began to push back, they projected. Every accusation they hurled at you was often a confession in disguise. They called you controlling because they were controlling. They called you unstable because they were destabilizing you. They called you selfish because your growing self respect threatened their access to you. Projection and blame shifting are not personality quirks. They are psychological defenses used to protect a self image that cannot tolerate accountability. Accountability for a narcissist feels like annihilation. That is why they will never truly apologize. That is why the closure you are waiting for will never arrive in the form you imagine. And then, when the devaluation became unbearable, came the discard, or the silent treatment, or the sudden coldness that made you feel like a stranger in your own relationship. And just when you began to accept it was over, the hoovering began. The random message, the birthday text, the mutual friend who suddenly reaches out, the nostalgic post that seems designed for your eyes. Hoovering is not love returning. Hoovering is supply retrieval. It is the narcissist sensing that their emotional inventory is low and reaching back for a familiar, reliable source. You. And if you understand this one concept clearly, you will never again mistake their return for redemption. Now, here is where the shift begins. Here is where regret becomes possible, not through anything you do to them, but through everything you become without them. Because the narcissist, at first, will appear unaffected, they will move on quickly, they will post the pictures, they will introduce the new person, they will perform happiness with theatrical precision, and you will wonder how someone could cause so much damage and feel so little. But what you are watching is image management. It is the curated performance of a person whose entire identity depends on being perceived as fine, desirable, and in demand. Underneath the performance, a countdown has already begun. Because new supply is never as deep, as loyal, or as tolerant as the person who truly loved them. And slowly, quietly, they begin to feel the absence of something they cannot name. If you are still with me and something inside you is beginning to loosen, beginning to understand, beginning to breathe again, take a moment to subscribe. This channel exists for the person who is ready to stop surviving and start rebuilding, for the person who is done being confused, for the person who is ready to trade the fantasy of their apology for the reality of their own healing. Every video here is designed to walk beside you as you reclaim your mind, your worth, and your future. Now let us talk about what actually creates regret in the mind of a narcissist. It is not your pain. Your pain to them was often evidence of their power. It is not your anger. Your anger fed their sense of importance. It is not your absence. If that absence is filled with longing, they can still sense from a distance. What creates regret is your transformation. Your genuine, unmistakable, irreversible transformation. The kind that cannot be faked and cannot be undone. The kind that makes them realize, on some primal level, that the mirror is gone, that the supply is gone, that the access is gone, and that the person they once shaped and controlled has become someone they no longer recognize and can no longer reach. This is why no contact, when it is safe and possible, is not a punishment strategy. It is a nervous system strategy. Every time you respond, every time you explain, every time you defend yourself, every time you check their social media, every time you ask a mutual friend about them, you are keeping a channel of emotional access open. And as long as that channel is open, they retain psychological leverage over you. No contact closes that channel. And when the channel closes, something profound happens inside you. Your nervous system finally begins to exit survival mode. Your thoughts begin to belong to you again. Your emotions stop being reactions to their behavior and start being expressions of your own inner life. But no contact alone is not healing. Distance is not the same as recovery. Many survivors go no contact and still remain emotionally entangled for years, replaying conversations, imagining confrontations, waiting for the moment the narcissist finally understands. This is where the deeper work begins. This is where you have to gently, patiently, and honestly ask yourself why their validation ever mattered so much in the first place. Not because you were flawed, not because you were broken, but because somewhere along the way, perhaps long before this relationship, you learned that love had to be earned, that your worth depended on being chosen, that keeping the peace was more important than protecting yourself. The narcissist did not create these wounds, they exploited them, and healing means finally tending to the wounds beneath the wound. This is why boundaries matter so much in recovery. Not boundaries as walls, not boundaries as punishments, boundaries as clarity. A boundary is simply the line where you stop abandoning yourself. It is the quiet, unwavering statement that says, "This is what I will accept, this is what I will not, and I no longer need your permission to protect my own peace." Narcissists cannot tolerate boundaries because boundaries reveal that you have a self, and a self that stands independent of them is a self that cannot be fully controlled. Every boundary you hold is a small dismantling of the emotional architecture they built around you. And then comes the practice of emotional non reactivity, not suppression, not pretending you are fine, but the developed capacity to feel your feelings without letting them dictate your behavior. Narcissists are trained observers of emotional patterns. They know your triggers. They know which words destabilize you. They know how to reach through years of silence with a single sentence designed to reopen the wound. When you develop the ability to feel the pull and not respond, to notice the trigger and not act on it, to see the manipulation clearly and remain still, you become something a narcissist has never encountered before. Unreachable. And unreachable to them is the deepest form of loss. Rebuilding self-worth is not a slogan. It is a daily, quiet, often unglamorous practice. It is choosing to eat when you have not eaten, choosing to sleep when your mind wants to spiral, choosing to speak kindly to yourself when the internalized voice of the narcissist still echoes in your head. Because make no mistake, part of the recovery process is realizing that they left behind a voice inside you, a voice that criticizes, a voice that doubts, a voice that predicts your failure. Healing means slowly, patiently, replacing that voice with your own. And your own voice, once you find it again, is far kinder, far wiser, and far more powerful than theirs ever was. Many survivors confuse closure with healing. They believe that if they could just have one honest conversation, one real apology, one moment where the narcissist finally admits what they did, they could finally move on. But closure from the narcissist will never come in a healthy form, because to give you closure, they would have to acknowledge accountability. And accountability is precisely the thing their psychology is built to avoid. Waiting for their closure is waiting for a person to become someone they are not. Real closure is not something you receive. It is something you generate. It is the moment you stop needing them to understand in order for you to move forward. And this is where the deepest transformation happens. Because as you heal, as you rebuild, as you fill your life with meaning, with people who are safe, with work that matters, with quiet mornings that belong to you, something extraordinary occurs. You stop thinking about them, not through force, not through discipline, but through the natural forgetting that happens when a life becomes genuinely full. And it is at that exact moment, often months or years later, that the narcissist finally feels it. The absence, the irrelevance, the unmistakable sense that they lost something they cannot get back, not because you punished them, but because you outgrew them. They may reach out then. They may test the waters. They may appear with softer words, curated regret, and the practiced language of change. And this is the moment that will define the rest of your emotional life. Because a healed person can recognize hoovering not as opportunity, but as pattern. A healed person can feel compassion without confusing it for reconciliation. A healed person can wish someone well and still keep the door closed. This is the final layer of regret for the narcissist. Not that you hate them, not that you fear them, but that you have become someone whose peace they cannot disturb, whose reality they cannot rewrite, and whose life no longer contains a doorway for them to walk back through. And so the question you started with, how do I make them regret what they did? slowly transforms into a different question entirely. How do I become someone whose life is so grounded, so peaceful, so rooted in truth that what they did no longer defines me? Because that is the version of you their psychology cannot survive. That is the version of you that ends the cycle. That is the version of you they will remember, quietly, for the rest of their lives, in the moments when their performance falters and the silence gets too loud. If this is speaking to something deep inside you, if you feel the fog beginning to lift, subscribe and stay close. There is so much more to understand about the patterns you lived through, the tactics you survived, and the person you are becoming on the other side of this. You are not behind in your healing. You are not too damaged. You are not too much or too little. You are simply someone who loved deeply in a place where love was not safe. And now you are learning, perhaps for the first time in your life, what it means to belong fully to yourself. And once that belonging takes root, once that inner ground becomes solid beneath you, there is nothing they can say, nothing they can do, nothing they can perform that can ever again reach the part of you that